Day 2 and it's all on in Utah. So the scene was set yesterday by Scott Speed, coming into today full of confidence as the top qualifier. The past behind him and ready to fly into the future. Well, how do you get from here to the podium? Let's just check in with the format for Day 2. So there are 2 heats from which the top 2 will pass straight to the final. The remaining field will be split into 2 semis. From each semi, the top 2 will go into the final, once again leaving behind the remainder of the field. They will then battle it out in a last chance qualifier, and again the top 2 will head to the final, meaning the final will be packed with 10 cars ready to fight their way to the podium. So to Heat 1, Scott Speed and Timmy Hansen took up the positions on the front row. So there was plenty of scrapping on the opening lap between Oliver Ericsson, Liam Duran and a tyre bale. Then came the turn of Kevin Ericsson and Scott Speed to clash, and a difference of opinion as to whose fault it was ensued after the heat. So it was Timmy Hansen and Oliver Ericsson's turn to get the first clear pass to the final. Disqualification came for Speed, but it seemed fairly worthless as he was to pick back up the battle in the forthcoming semi. Heat 2 and the Subarus were running 1-2 off the start, with Travis Pastrana benefiting from Speed's ill-fated heat. He knew the low line was the quickest. Bakkerud had a great start but ran deep on lap 3, started dropping time and picked up a problem front right. So it was Travis Pastrana and Steve Arpin who pulled out a flyer and would head straight to the final. The action continued thick and fast in the supercars as we headed straight to semi-final 1. Speed, not fazed by his heat, had a clean start with the knowledge in his back pocket that the low line was the quick one. Eric Larson and McConnell wanted to share the same line and went wheel to wheel. Larson was in full flying mode, taking 2 wheels into the Talladega bank after an epic jump. Kevin Ericsson drives in anger and picks up a puncture, sending him straight into the last chance qualifiers. Speed heads into the final and the Jamaican contingent go wild as Fraser McConnell also heads straight to the 10-car final. Semi-final 2 and Bakkerud was in charge from the start, winning from Faust, who went early on the Joker. Liam Duran was also pushing hard on Tanner Faust, but a mistake meant he, Kevin Hansen and Cabot Bigham were all left with no choice but to battle it out over the 3 laps in the last chance qualifier. And the action exploded immediately. Liam Duran went for the big jump and it paid off for just a moment. He looked like he was cruising his way to the final until he picked up a left puncture and flung himself into the barrier. Larson flipped it, rolled it and landed back on all 4s and was quickly back in business. But the close sign was soon put out as the red flag waved for Duran's car being in a dangerous position. Lining up for the rerun, Kevin Ericsson walked away from the last chance qualifier. Hansen took the clean air, the clean run and the perfect time Joker to progress to the final. Bigham looked strong and was heading to the final, but he almost didn't make it over the finish line as the front left corner of his car was falling off after clipping a tyre bale. The big question now was, could he repair it in time for the final? So to the final, and only 9 cars lined up as Bigham was unable to repair his damages in time. So it was a clean start from all 9, but it was Timmy's choice of line that gave him the clear air after turn 1. Travis got caught up in a spin, lost ground and any chance of a podium. Dust flying everywhere, the Subarus picked up trouble one by one, leaving a clear route to 3rd for Kevin Hansen, coming from the back of the grid to the front. The big jump hasn't been a total guarantee of a quick lap this weekend, but Timmy put his money on it and flew to the top spot. Steve Arpin in 2nd, an impressive charge and an impressive weekend from someone who's had very little seat time over the last few years. So the top 3 once again, Timmy Hansen on the top spot, Steve Arpin in 2nd and 3rd sees Kevin Hansen. George McGuinness claimed victory in his 2nd NRX next round of the weekend, with a mature final drive to resist pressure from Martin Enland, who finished 2nd for the 2nd straight day. Casper Janssen, who jokered on the first lap, flirted with challenging for the win, but ultimately could not make the most of that clear air he got early on. Lane Vicala was 4th after getting by the fast-starting Sage Karam, with Eric Gordon the final finisher. Well, it's barely enough time to recover before we go to round 2. Nitro Rallycross is back and even more impressive than we could ever imagine. See you in just under a week.